Hello, English students. Welcome to your lecture on plagiarism. Today I'm going to talk to you about what exactly plagiarism is and how to avoid it. Now, most of you will have an understanding of what plagiarism is. And if we were in a classroom setting right now, I'd ask you, okay, what is it? And most people come up with those standard answers, right? They say, okay, well, it's when you use somebody else's ideas that aren't your own, and you put them in your paper and you pretend like they are. And that is basically what it is. But plagiarism is actually a bit broader than that as well. Plagiarism is when you take someone else's ideas and you don't rephrase them properly. Plagiarism is when you take an old paper for a different class and submit it to another class. You're essentially plagiarizing yourself. Plagiarism involves copying and pasting things off the internet. And even if they aren't necessarily a unique idea, if you didn't write it, it's not yours. All of those things constitute plagiarism and academic misconduct. When you think about who this kind of misconduct hurts, again, if we were in a classroom, most of you would go, oh, we're only hurting ourselves. Well, yeah, that's what teachers like to tell you, right? Because they want you to learn. Plagiarism, when it's done at a college or a university, you're actually interacting with people that write the kinds of papers that you are likely to go online and copy and paste from. So if you're at a college and you're at a university and you're in a class and you have a professor and most of those professors are publishing articles and you're stealing ideas from them or people like them, it hurts us. It hurts us professors. It is essentially saying that all those ideas that you worked 10 or 15 years spending thousands and thousands of dollars on education to be able to do is not worth giving us credit for. So it's like a slap in the face. So when we think about who it hurts, yes, we care about you students learning, but it's also directly affecting the people who are teaching you. What will happen when you do it? Well, at Portage College, we do have a 3-step process, and you can look at your student guide to find out what that process is under policies and procedures. In order to avoid it, there's a few key things you need to do. First, it's understand the difference between general information, paraphrasing, and quoting, and we'll talk about that today. Second is being a conscientious researcher. And third, it's learning to paraphrase correctly. Let's take a look. Quoting, of course, quoting is taking another person's words directly from a print source. When you do that, it must be taken accurately word for word. If you watch the video on quotation marks, you'll see some ideas in there about how to change and adapt quotes without breaking any rules. You also need to cite correctly in MLA for an English course. English 106, English 108, we use MLA. An example below. According to research, dogs prefer owners who walk them daily. Jones and Cash, 14. Here we have 2 authors and the page number. This would be the standard format for an MLA in-text citation. For more information on MLA and how to use it, please take a look at the Moodle site. The difference between summarizing and paraphrasing is also important. Now, basic background information that your reader likely already knows and is not proof of your argument, something like plot summary in an English book, is not cited. If you're writing a paper on Pride and Prejudice and you're providing some information about the setting that isn't necessarily relevant to the argument you're making, and it's just a sentence, And we know, of course, that this is Austin's book and they're in the main house and this is what you need to tell me prior to giving me the quote, then that's just background information and you don't need an in-text citation with it. For example, the girl walked into the room with a bag of groceries in her arms that she had just purchased at Walmart. This statement is fine as long as it's setting up a quote or a paraphrase that comes after. Paraphrasing is when you're taking another writer's original idea and rewriting it in your own words. So paraphrasing happens typically when a quote that you're using doesn't work, or you've just decided you don't necessarily want to quote and that paraphrasing will work better. So paraphrasing is when you are looking at something you might normally quote and just turning it into your own words. And it constitutes proof. In the example here, follows up from the previous example. The reusable bag the girl carried said Planet Organic on the side, which leads us to believe she was purchasing organic vegetables. But as Anderson argues, many users of these bags only make single purchases in order to gain social credit for conscious choices, 12, which is the page number. So normally, you might put a quote from Anderson here, but because for whatever reason you didn't want to, you turned it into your own words and just put the page number at the end, showing, of course, Anderson said this, and this is the page where Anderson said it. So the difference between quoting, background information, and paraphrase. If you have any questions about that, please ask me in class. The second thing you need to do is conscientious research. And this just means meticulous note-taking whenever you are looking up information, whether it's on the internet, which isn't ideal, or whether it's in the databases when you're looking up information about a particular topic or subject area. If you're making photocopies, like I did in the old days, then you're writing down the author, title, publisher, publication date. If it's a photocopy, or if you just don't want to hit print and you're worried you're going to lose it, just make sure when you write down the quote or the idea, you're keeping that information. Avoid copying and pasting from the internet. And by internet, I mean the World Wide Web. Whenever you Google something, don't go there for your information as much as humanly possible. It's not considered general knowledge. You should always be going into the college databases for your information. If we haven't had a lesson on how to do that yet, and you're curious about what it means, please visit the library tab in the Portage College website. It's often easy to plagiarize too when you're looking directly at the passage you're trying to paraphrase. So if you have decided that you're going to take a quote and paraphrase it, you need to make sure you're doing that correctly so that you don't get into trouble. Often it's this paraphrasing that gets students into a jam. A couple years ago, I talked about this subject with a group of nursing students, and together we came up with what we call the BARF method. The BARF method is about thinking about what you've read and processing it. And the best analogy we could come up with was eating a peanut butter and banana sandwich. So if you are reading an article and you come across an idea in a couple of sentences, but you know you don't want to quote it and you're going to paraphrase it, it's really important that you read the passage first. That passage is a peanut butter and banana sandwich. You're going to put it in your mouth, you're going to chew it up. Then you're going to put the sandwich down, you're going to close the book, and you're going to think about it. You're going to think about that passage, what it means to you, how it's important, and you're going to close the book because you don't want to choose words that are similar. Because if you choose words that are similar, when you bring it back up, that passage is going to be chunky. So you are digesting that peanut butter sandwich and you're going to bring it up again. You're going to regurgitate it, right? So the book is still closed, the sandwich is still down, and you're going to bring up that sandwich in a different form. Now, vomit, as we all know, when we bring it up, it can be chunky, it can be smooth. What you want is a smoothly written, no longer chunky paraphrase of that idea. You don't want similar phrases. You don't want words that are too similar. You want it completely and entirely in your own words. And if you're thinking about vomit, you want smooth vomit. A smooth peanut butter and banana sandwich vomit is still made up of particles of peanut butter and banana. It's just no longer chunky. You can't see the chunks of banana. You can't see the chunks of bread. It needs to be smooth. After you bring it up, you go back and you check that your paraphrase is correct. You want to make sure that you have noted the correct page and author at the same time. So if we are looking at this, what does this look like in real life? So here at the top, on the page, we have an MLA reference, what we would see at the end of a paper, and then we have the original source material. Read through both of them, hit pause, read through both the top and the bottom, and tell me if it is okay or if it's plagiarized. Okay, we know it's plagiarized. We know it's plagiarized because there's no citation at the end of this. There's no page number. The page number would be A4. And also, this is fairly chunky. Arid Oklahoma fields have deep chasms. Deep chasms is a big old chunk of banana. Beg for a drink. Mouths open, begging for a drink. Very chunky paraphrase. And we don't want chunky, and we want to make sure we have a citation. Here again, go ahead and hit pause if I'm moving quickly. So hit pause, look at the original source material, and look below. This too, also plagiarized. It's almost word for word the same. If something is word for word the same, likely you might not even want to quote it. So you could fix this by putting quotation marks and a citation at the end. However, you might not want to. Some things are better paraphrased. Here's another example. How's this one? This one's okay. Here you have quotation marks around the exact words, and you have a citation MLA style at the end. This one works. Last. Here, the MLA citation in the original source material and the paraphrase below. Oklahoma farmers are worried that they will not be able to feed their animals during the winter because the absence of rain the past 6 weeks has caused billions of dollars in crop loss. Helms A4. Is this plagiarized or okay? Hit pause. Really think about it. Okay, this one's fine. This one's fine because they've chosen completely different language, except for words that aren't normally changed, like 6 weeks or billions of dollars. Other words for that would just be a little bit redundant or unnecessary. You never really want to change exact numbers like that. You'll want to keep them the same, but otherwise it's fine. For the quiz for this lesson, you will notice that there is no practice test for plagiarism that has the original source material and a paraphrase. However, in the test, there is one. So the practice quiz and the test are slightly different. If you have any questions or if you want to practice paraphrase before you do the marked quiz, please contact the instructor.